Those of you who have been following my channel for a very long time know that it's no secret that I love movies. I've loved movies since I was a little kid, and when I was younger, I actually used to make my own short films, if you can call them that. When I was 10 years old, I started experimenting with stop-motion animation and making my own short movies, and when The Sims 2 came out, I started experimenting with the machinima functionality and making my own Sims 2 short films. And when I was 15 years old, I decided to buckle down and try to make a serious horror movie with The Sims 2. The story of that is a story for another time, but to put it simply, that film was terrible. With all of that being said, if there's one thing that experience taught me, it's that no matter how bad a movie is, usually it's worthy of some respect, because most of the time, making a movie is really, really hard. Forget that most of the time part, it's all of the time. Even if the movie is really bad, usually you can appreciate the hard work that somebody put into it. And as I've grown older and my film repertoire has grown, I've kept that in mind. If I don't like something about a movie, I usually try to find the things that I appreciate about it. And most of the time that works. And then there are some times where it doesn't work. This is going to be the story of a movie experience that was so bad, it stopped me from going to the theater for a certain amount of time. To start this story, we're gonna go back to the year 2008. Or rather, circa 2007, 2008. I don't know the exact date this happened, I just know that it was cold outside, and it was around the time this movie came out. Which, this movie came out in 2007, so that would have put me at 16 years old. While most people would characterize me as somewhat shy today, when I was 16 years old, I was definitely a very shy, fairly reclusive homebody. I had friends and I would talk to them in school and I had fun hanging out with them. But I really didn't venture outside of my house very much. I was that guy who spent most of my time on YouTube, even though at the time I had a dial-up internet connection. Yes, in 2007 and 2008, I had a dial-up internet connection, and I used it to watch YouTube. You can imagine why I spent so much time in my room watching YouTube, because it took forever to watch a video. I really hadn't been to the theater very many times up to that point. Even though I loved movies and watching movies, my family just didn't really venture out to go to the theater that much. But the times that I did, it was great. And I always looked forward to going. It was like a special thing that we almost never did, but whenever we did, we knew it was special. But back to the story. This story takes place on a day when I decided to actually go to the Joliet Mall. Yes, I grew up in Joliet, with 4 of my friends. And of the 5 of us, I was the 3rd wheel. 5th wheel? 2 of my friends who were in this group were dating each other. The other 2 in this group were dating each other. And I was the guy who was just tagging along. At that point in my life, I was in that really weird, awkward stage where I kind of was interested in girls, but wasn't to the point where I really wanted to date anybody. I was still getting out of that phase where I was like, oh, I know what those things are called. They're called girls. Now, as for these 4 people, no matter what they were like back then, today, I respect all of them. I think they're all really good people, and I think they're all very, very nice people. In short, all of them I have massive respect for today. With that being said, at the time, keep in mind, we were 15, 16 years old. Not exactly the time when you're most mature. I definitely wasn't mature, but there was one member of the group who, let's just say, was not very mature, and she annoyed the shit out of me. Again, now I don't think that at all, because she has matured since then. But back then, oh my god. The only thing that I was focusing on while we were in the mall was, how do I avoid talking to this person as much as possible? And where the hell are the Borders and the Suncoast? Yes, those things were a thing at the time I was going here. Or at least I think Borders was. I know Suncoast was. Rest in peace, Suncoast. But anyway, we all decided that we were gonna go see a movie, because we actually did have enough money to go see a movie. Surprisingly. Now, as I mentioned, when I was 16 years old, I wasn't very mature, and to be completely honest, I was a little bit more of a film snob then than I am now. Now I'm a bit more lenient on movies. When I was 16, I was definitely not lenient on them at all. And pretty much none of the movies that were out in the theater at this time I really wanted to see, so I didn't give any preference of what to see. Now I wish I had. The movie we went to see was the 2007 animated and live-action disaster, Alvin and the Chipmunks. You know, the one where they updated the somewhat cute cartoon characters that we all know and love and turned them into CGI abominations that had no business being CGI abominations. So we go to see the movie, and I already know it's gonna be bad. The previews play, and they're all for these really young kid movies, and we're a bunch of teenagers just sitting in the middle of the theater, and somehow I ended up being sat next to this one really annoying at the time person. And as the previews are playing, all I can think is, this is probably going to be bad, isn't it? But I'm thinking it might be okay, because even though it's the previews and this is the time where almost everybody talks to each other, nobody was really talking. It was actually a decent experience up until that point. Then the movie started, and the Chipmunks started singing, and they appeared on screen. And then all of a sudden, in addition to having to hear all of this stuff and see all of this stuff, this annoying girl next to me just starts going, "Oh, Stephen, look, it's the little chipmunks. It's the little chipmunks." And I'm not kidding. She did that throughout the entire movie. I am not exaggerating. Every time they started singing, she would do that. "Stephen, it's the little chipmunks." Every time. You probably just got annoyed from me doing that for roughly 4 to 5 seconds. Imagine sitting through an hour and a half long movie. And if it's not that long, it sure as hell felt longer. I was just sitting there wanting to explode, and I wanted to walk out. But I didn't. I took it like a champ, and I sat through the entire thing. And I pretended that I liked the movie. For them. And I'll admit it was my fault. I didn't recommend going to see a different movie. I didn't refuse to see the film. And I could have said, you know, I wouldn't really like it if you talked. Could you please not say, "Oh, it's a little chipmunk," every 5 seconds? But because I was extremely immature at the time, I let this make me think, this is how it's going to be at every single screening that I go to. Even though that idea makes no sense. I was thinking, okay, I hate going to the theater now. If I could go back in time and talk to past Steve about that moment, I would be all like, "Steve, don't worry. Not every filmic experience is going to be like this. You just had the worst one you ever had in your life, and it's all gonna go up from here. When 2014 comes around, you're gonna go see Gone Girl. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be the best movie theater experience that you've had up until this point, and you're gonna renew your love for seeing movies in the theater. And then you're gonna go see Interstellar, which is an even better theater experience. And you're gonna wish you saw that stuff in IMAX, my friend. And you are going to have your faith in theatergoers restored." And that, my friends, is the story of the worst movie theater experience of my life. Now, if you're watching this video at the time that I'm shooting it, you all know that right now is not exactly a time that you can be going to the theater. Right now, we're going through a pandemic. Again, won't say the name of it because YouTube doesn't like that. Just because all of this is going on doesn't mean that you can't watch a bunch of movies that are streaming right now. And I want to let you guys know what those are. Stay tuned for that list. Thanks for listening to my rambling story, and I'll see you guys later.